From the News Channel 5 Network, this is MorningLine.
Good morning, everyone. Thanks for joining us on MorningLine. I'm Nick Barris. It is Tuesday, and this is live and direct to you from Studio A here at News Channel 5 Network. We're going to take your phone calls this morning. We've got a good show on tap for you, and it's something I think a lot of people, you know, if they're not just talking about it, they're concerned about it. Certainly, you see the subject matter up there. National security. I want your take on this, and God forbid when something like this may eventually make its way here to Music City, because I personally believe, despite everything people try to do and law enforcement does, sooner or later it's going to come, and it can end up anywhere. But we see what's happened most recently up in New Jersey and New York City, and the whole situation now with the suspect Ahmad Khan Rahami, who's been taken into custody after a shootout with police, accused of, you know, planting the bombs in New York over the weekend, and how all of that's played out. You see, of course, the video there from the weekend, and just how awful that was. Amazing that no one was killed, but 29 people were injured there in the Chelsea neighborhood. There is the suspect, and he was taken into custody here. He injured 2 officers in a gunfight, but they took him down. He was hit several times, but a key point here as I talk about this is he survived. He didn't kill himself. He was not shot and killed by the police officers, though I imagine they were targeting central body mass, but they were not life-threatening injuries. So he is incarcerated now, and as law enforcement says, that's a good thing as opposed to killing him, because now we can grill him, try to get him to talk, though my understanding is right now he's not cooperating. Give it time as things settle in. I'm not sure just what type of terrorist this individual is, but well, let's ask that of our guest this morning, Thomas Schwartz, you know, the political science professor from over at Vanderbilt. Nice to have you on, as always, Professor. And yeah, that is the question. What kind of terrorist is this man? He is still alive.
Right.
And you said, you know, we talked before, he's from Afghanistan. He has a wife that had just gone back there. What do you think? He's not fully indoctrinated?
What the assumption is now, and again, you're working with pretty preliminary information, is that he became radicalized when he spent about a year in Pakistan, in an area where the Taliban is particularly strong within Pakistan itself, and so that he became more radicalized over the last year and a half or so, because people who've known him earlier, some of the people who knew him from high school or from, don't describe a very religious or radical figure, and so it's thought that this has been a relatively recent phenomenon and came about because of recent travels, or during recent travels.
I'll tell you what, it seems to me that an individual like this, 28 years old, it's stunning to me how quickly the radicalization can sometimes happen. As you said, some of his friends said they didn't recognize this as the person they knew. He makes a couple of trips and boom.
Well, we also saw something like this with the ISIS fighter who ran the bus in southern France. He had been also someone radicalized rather rapidly, that his associates didn't see that in him beforehand. So this type of radicalization sometimes does happen rapidly. My guess is it also can be unwound rapidly too if people are reached in some manner before they act. But it does seem as though the radicalization took place rather quickly.
Well, you know, they did capture, you know, I guess they've raided his home, they've taken his hard drives. He was also found to have a little black booklet on him as well. They've gone through that. They haven't shared everything they've discovered there, other than to say that there clearly was some anti-American sentiment in there, talking about Muslims and Muslims being hurt or harmed, and him reacting to all of this. And so you have that. By the way, you did mention the situation in Paris and in Nice, the truck that drove through in July, I think Bastille Day was it? And overnight they announced that 8 more people have been arrested in connection with that. You know, these investigations, you wonder if others will be arrested in connection with this case up in New York State. You know, was he a lone wolf? Was he, you know, other links? You said probably they're trying to reach his wife now,
They're
correct?
probably reach his wife, who had left a few days before, and they feel that's suspicious, and they will, what they'll do is they'll try to track down all of his acquaintances. They'll use some of that as leverage against him, suggesting that if he doesn't tell them who was involved, they're going to go after everyone in his life, and that sort of idea. And undoubtedly, I think they're going to, this investigation will go on for quite a while in terms of trying to spin out his whole set of friends, acquaintances, and that, both here in the United States and back in Pakistan and Afghanistan.
Oh yeah, they'll be quizzing everyone as they do, and they don't give up on it. As just say, months later they make these arrests in the Bastille Day tragedy there with the truck running through the crowd. The thing that's interesting about this too now is that the bombs here seem to follow kind of the template of what they used in the horrible Boston Marathon bombing. And it's those pressure cookers. I just imagine this, pressure cookers, and I think they said he threw everything in there from nails to Christmas tree lights to other things, and an explosive that in the pressure cooker, when it blows, all that metal goes flying away. Now he left them in backpacks. Now that one, they were detonated by cell phone, is my understanding, right? Now, a couple of these backpacks were planted elsewhere that were found by thieves.
It's
it is in New York
ironic.
City.
In New York City.
They're like, oh, there's a backpack. Someone left it. Let's steal it. And these thieves were caught on video, and the police want to talk to them, not as suspects in the bombing, but these are folks who opened it up thinking, hey, we just found a backpack. What's in here? And they're like, oh my gosh. They put it down, and they think maybe the thieves, by opening the backpack and looking, may have inadvertently disarmed.
Well, they're very lucky thieves. They may have also blown themselves up.
They're lucky there,
but the pressure cooker model was ISIS inspired. ISIS sort of sent out one of its earlier videos or internet messages on its ISIS magazine was how to build bombs. That's what evidently affected the son. I have brothers up in Boston. They followed that model. He evidently followed it, but did even a better job in a way, or at least supposedly did a better job in some of the bombs. But obviously, maybe he was not as skilled in that. But that it is part of the idea of inspiring these lone wolf attacks. That ISIS is at least inspired, and this one could be also from Taliban or Al Qaeda. We don't know necessarily that he's ISIS inspired.
How much do they really go into it in terms of training them on how to do things? And is it that they suspect, when they send ISIS sends any of these bombers out to do a mission? All right. They're taught how to make these bombs. They're not particularly sophisticated, but you have to have some kind of knowledge to do that. But then, as you talked about the brothers in the Boston Marathon bombing, or in this case with this clown, and that's what he is. He's a terrorist. He leaves a fingerprint on one of them that they're able to trace. On top of it, in the Boston case and in this case, there's surveillance video and there's their face. I mean, are they not aware? Because to this day, I believe that there was a distinct possibility those brothers in Boston could have gotten away with it had they remained concealed and later not talked. Because the video, once you saw their pictures and his, it was just a matter of time before they were going to get caught. Why do they not think to cover up their faces or disguise themselves?
You can't. You're suggesting that they're really trained, and they're not. And in some sense,
that's like common sense.
Well, part of it also could be, in fact, they may not care.
That's
in which case, that it's also the idea that this is something that they're doing for religious purposes, and that the idea that they're going to face retribution or punishment is not primary in their thinking. They want to make sure they cause an impact, and they want to terrorize.
Okay, because every time the videos, when we talk about where it can show up, ISIS, I guess, will target anywhere if they can in this country. Now, what was scary, this didn't have to do with any kind of terrorism, but it was just a couple weekends ago, there was an incident here in Middle Tennessee, over there in Williamson County, outside a nursing home, where someone it was an estranged boyfriend or husband of a woman that worked here, but he planted a bomb, according to police, inside her vehicle, and she came out, opened the door, and fortunately it did not detonate. And they went out there, and they've since caught him. And again, no terrorist thing here. This seems like more of a domestic issue. But bombs, is that the method of choice?
Well, you got to keep in mind that we've gone through waves of this in our history. We had a huge wave in the 19-teens and 20s, the anarchist wave of bombings. There was a famous bombing on Wall Street, still unsolved all these years in 1920. We went through a wave of bombings in the 70s with radicals, the radical underground groups, bombs in the Capitol, all over they're really quite much more than actually today.
But you had a bombing at Vanderbilt. The Unabomber. The Unabomber targeted a professor at Vanderbilt, sending it in a package by
No, it does go in waves. It relies on certain types of expertise, and then is inspired by alienation depending on political circumstances. And this is a particular wave we're getting that's inspired by Islamic grievances or perceived Islamic grievances.
All right, listen, we will take phone calls on this if you'd like. The number is 737-7587 if you want to touch on that. One other attack we didn't broach that had nothing to do with bombs was the situation in Minnesota, the stabbings. Okay, and again, now in that case, unlike this case out of New York, ISIS has claimed responsibility.
Yes, they have, they've claimed him as a soldier of ISIS.
Okay, and so do you suspect in those cases, there's actually communications, as
the
opposed
internet,
to in this, or how?
It's possible. That will be one of the things, one of the areas of investigation. There has been this sort of fear that some elements in the Somali Minnesota community, Minnesota has a substantial Somali American population, and there has been some fear in some cases of Somalis going back and being trained and becoming radicalized, and so there may be some communication there.
Interesting. All right, listen, we'll take a break. When we come back, we can get to the calls. My question to you is, one, do you fear this? Do you think it's just a matter of time, obviously, before something like this happens in this town? It could, as big as it is. And then the question for you, especially since you're dealing with political science, these types of things happen. It's going to be politicized. We're in a presidential race here, and both candidates are going to be talking about this. In fact, they already are. I want to get into that and your take, whether that's right, wrong, or otherwise. Both Hillary Clinton and Donald Trump are speaking out on this most recent case, and you can as well. So you see the number on the screen. Give us a call. We've got a few holding, but we've got lines open. Just your take on all of this. It is scary stuff. 737-7587. Back more with Professor Schwartz, and your calls right after this.